So, so we'll begin the meetup. So, hello,
Good.
this is David Kim. Yes. Okay. So, hello, this is David Kim from AVING News. So, I've invited Ubergizmo and Nuvilab for this meetup. So, we arranged a meetup to discuss new issues after CES 2023. So, Nuvilab prepares to participate in CES with new products, technological issues, and business matters. Today's meetup is a unique feature by Seoul Business Agency's Seoul Business Service, featuring a media interview between Nuvilab, a food tech company, and Ubergizmo from the United States. We are excited to we are excited about the products and technology Nuvilab will showcase at next year's CES. So let's introduce the participating companies, which is Nuvilab and Ubergizmo, and what Nuvilab will showcase at next year's CES. So, so the session will proceed with a 10-minute uh, 10-minute introduction by Nuvilab with 20-minute Q&A session after that. So I hope you will have a great conversation and a comfortable conversation to start things off. Thank you.
Sounds good. Let me just quickly share my screen, confirming everybody can see my screen.
I can see it.
Yes.
All right, so glad to be back. As Nuvilab Global Business Development Manager, Ayden. I'm glad to be able to introduce our newly updated product and software, which is we dubbed it dataware for food services. So a couple of updates from 2018 where we began and up until now. We have successfully accumulated a ton of data. I will not lay out the number. And then we have successfully proved that our model accuracy to be 95% in both classification and volume estimation. And then the scanning time, we are being conservative and we put 1 second, but then it's actually about 0.7 to 0.9 seconds. And then we newly implemented due to some of the healthcare and food personal nutrition industry where they need a cross-check with the human intervention. We have cut down that number from 1 week to 24 hours. So our technology, again, implements AI and 3D depth sensors to enable accurate processing in real time to infer what type and amount of food item is being presented. This is one of the examples where we implement this technology in the halls. So the individuals would scan their plates and then the AI would infer which items are present, and then the depth analysis will have infer how much of what items are being presented. So again, our goal is to tackle the food service and all things food from fork to farm all around. So ranging from meal plan to consumption, and it's not shown in the slide, to like disposal. We're trying to bring in clarity and data into like all around the ecosystem of food service. So this is our little slogan that we came up with. So what we boast is that we scan the food items, we don't weigh them. So no more weighing in line, and then we can scan things right away. So how this is important is not that it's, excuse me, how this is important is not that it is fancy, it is 3D vision, computer vision, it is that it is seamless in terms of integration into the pre-existing kitchen environment or the hall environment. So in the traditional methods, they would have to weigh the individual trays or the food disposal bins. What we enable by implementing vision sensors is that first, we don't need those big hardwares in terms of like scaling or weighing those food items. And then what we enable also is the food consumption level and waste output level of each individual food item presented only able to be succeeded by those vision sensors, because if you weigh the whole item, then you don't know which item has more leftovers or less. So we bring in a lot more clarity. So this is our new product, new hardware that we bring in. We're going to showcase in CES 2024. Basically, what's changed is that it is much more modular and flexible. So traditionally, we had one model that has RGB and depth information. And then now we have a central computer model, and then the RGB sensor that will be mounted on the top, and then the depth sensor mounted on the bottom. So per client's need is going to be the same hardware design that can be modulated and then um, pretty much be flexible per client needs. So first implementation is what we've been doing for the past 5 years. So it's a food tray scanner. So an individual can scan their tray and then they would know how much they have left and how much of carbon output or nutrition intake they have consumed. And then the second thing is relatively new. It has been showcased in like a couple of events previous, but it is more focused on the kitchen operation. So instead of scanning the trays, it would be scanning the trash bins. The output is the same, so it would give out the information on the depth and the type of the food items, but then it is more focused towards kitchen operation and management. So they can control their stocks better, they can predict their covers and the number of diners better. And then the last one is automated conveyor scanner. So it is the smallest scanner that we have, and then it is going to be mounted on the conveyor belts where the environment allows, and then it will automatically scan all the food items that are being left. So the depth of information that we give out has been optimized to each specific client. So before it was how much food and how much nutrition, how much waste. But then now we can modulate that also. So for specific needs, in terms, for example, in healthcare, depending on the patient's condition, depending on the facility in terms of hospital or long-term care, they can have their own models that they can implement, and then we're going to have dashboards to optimize and filter through those information. Um, As said, for different purposes, we have dubbed our solutions for more clarity. So the diet manager is going to be our previous nutrition intake manager. So anything that has to do with nutritional intake and diet control, ranging from K-12 industry, educational facilities, military, long-term care, and hospitals, all things nutrition and something that has to do with intake is going to be integrated into the diet manager program. Then second thing is a footprint manager is pretty self-explanatory. It's what we've been doing, and then it's the strongest basis that we have. It's going to calculate how much carbon emission is being put it out for that specific client or facility. And we're cooperating with FAO and other international organizations to have better clarity on how to calculate that carbon emission. And then last thing is the inventory manager. This is geared towards the kitchen. So the kitchen managers would have better clarity in terms of understanding what they need to purchase more, what they need to purchase less, what they can expect in terms of number of customers and number of diners. So our dataware is basically designed to enhance the pre-existing operators' clarity and data management control. Couple of use cases. Hospitality is really strong for us, and the education, especially K-12, is really strong for us as well. We are cooperating with Fraser Health Authority in Canada and Singapore's Alexandra Hospital in terms of healthcare. And we have successfully closed off a POC with Aramark Korea. And along with that, a couple of educational facilities and hospitality players that I cannot disclose yet. But then our main focus right now is that we're on the verge of global expansion. So we're in talks with multiple different stakeholders in multiple different nations. And then we're aiming to have that ambition really showing in CES 2020. And that would be it.
Right.
I'll be open for any comments or questions.
Okay, so that was a very smooth presentation. And I do have some questions. So first of all, maybe I'll start with the end. So you said you have a proof of concept that was ordered with which partner was that?
This Aramark Korea.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, of course. They're big here too, actually. In Silicon Valley, yeah, they do a lot of catering and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. In terms of global expansion, I was wondering how much regulatory or paper work hurdle do you have on a per country basis?
So that really depends on which sector that we're trying to tackle, right? So obviously, if we're trying to go into like hospitals and healthcare sectors, the regulational huddle is going to be a lot higher. That's why we're focusing on the kitchen first. So we have different versions of implementation. So the one that requires minimal data that can like go through that doesn't have necessarily a lot of regulations applied all the way to like healthcare clinical settings where a lot of regulations going to be taken in place.
Okay, and then when you say kitchen, you mean things like schools, maybe military, something that's not healthcare, basically.
Something that is not healthcare, that is correct. So corporates, military, education, or like hospitality as
well. Okay. And when you say hospitality, do you mean hotels and places like that?
Hotels, resorts, and we have been in pretty robust talk with a couple of the transportation, air transportation industry as well.
Okay. I'd like to see if you could integrate that into like an airplane, right? Because once the plane has landed, there's nothing left on the trays and stuff.
So when it comes to regulations that you mentioned before, surprisingly, the transportation and then food-related technology and implementation is surprisingly hard. So we're in a little bit of a halt in that, but then definitely this next year, we're going to be pushing forward with that.
Cool. And so you mentioned the diet manager. So is that a new feature? It wasn't clear to me.
I would say it's not a new feature, it's an updated feature. So basically what we've been doing is that we have forwarded information of the nutritional information of the food item, and then we proportionalize depending on the consumption rate of what nutrition has been taken in, right? Now we're integrating that with our robust data that we have been collected as well. So even if the clients don't necessarily have that information, we can have the closest thing that we have and then have much more robust and flexible solution implementation.
And so what's the management aspect of it?
So Matt, okay, one big thing about our solution is we don't necessarily tell them what to do. We don't tell them what is right or wrong. So what we do is, okay, you have this demographic information, and then it seems that your optimal food nutritional intake is this much, but what you have actually taken is this much. So have that information and then have it controlled in your way. So we don't say like eat more protein. We don't say eat more vegetable. We say your protein deficit or your vegetable deficit.
Okay, got it. So there's no recommendations, but there's a comparison with a known baseline.
Yeah, the only reason why is we can do that recommendation, but we are being careful in terms of telling people what to do.
Yeah, and it's probably better because there's a lot of different situations anyway, and you would sometimes need to know about who's eating it.
Mm. All right.
Okay.
So, before we move on to next question, so can you explain what is planned for the coming CES in Las Vegas 2024?
For CES, we're really geared towards showcasing different solutions that we have solidified. So that includes a care manager, which is basically the nutritional intake and the diet manager, and then the kitchen optimization solution, and then the dining hall optimization solution. And then one big thing that we're showcasing is a type 2 diabetes care. So we're linking the diabetes and glucose level, again, non-clinical information with their diet patterns, because each food, depending on how it's cooked, when it's eaten, and then who is eating, it all has different impacts, right? So instead of saying eat more carrots, eat more spinach or something like that, we're giving them the patterns of, okay, if you eat spinach in this specific time and event, then your glucose level is here. So we're integrating that with the CGM as well.
And the glucose level would be measured by something, or is it just statistical?
It's going to be statistical with the timestamps and the food intake information, but then we don't necessarily track the glucose level. It's going to be integrated with the CGM that they have.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, sometimes even if you eat the same amount of, let's say, rice, if you
It's
add
totally
like just a
different.
little vinegar, it's going to change
Mhm.
how it's being metabolized. Yeah.
And
Okay,
I have
yeah,
one
I
more.
think
Yes.
not
I have one more
doing
question.
recommendations is a good thing.
All right. Okay, so I have one more question. Did Nuvilab had any business issue this year? Like what is specific difficulty it had in market and what in what country?
Um, I would be a little bit conservative in terms of what kind of information I can disclose, but definitely our biggest focus is when it comes to healthcare and hospitality, it's going to be North American region, especially in America. And then when it comes to like regulatory compliance and standard setting, it's going to be definitely the EU region because they're the pioneers of that realm. And then when it comes to the growth and expansion, we're looking closely into Middle Eastern market.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions. Hubert, do you have any more questions?
Yes, I do. In terms of pricing, could you give us some idea of how much some of those devices would cost?
Oh, thank you for asking that because that's actually one of the very strong points that we have. Because we control everything with computer vision sensors and hardware that is basically just a computer. We don't necessarily have a lot of intervention of physical engineers having to be there, which can drastically cut down the cost. I can't disclose specific numbers, but then we're close to half of some of our competitors. I would
For
say
like
at least.
for the whole solution,
Mhm.
not just the device, I assume.
Yeah, for the whole implementation, A to Z.
Okay. I haven't seen a lot of competitors in that space. How many are there?
Um, if we start counting like every single company that does similar thing or creates similar value, it's going to be like hundreds, literally. Um, but our direct competitors, namely unnameable. There are a couple, but then a vast majority of them implement either only vision or like 2D vision where they lack the depth information, or they actually have the like physical scales they need to
Okay.
weigh. And then the reason why they can't, you haven't heard a lot of them is because it's really hard to expand into like kitchens or halls when you have a physical scale because it's hard to clean, it's hard to maintain, and it's just a big block of equipment that's blocking everybody's way. So we eliminate that, and then we're trying to be as user friendly as possible.
Cool. So before that, you were doing the volume estimation using RGB only.
No, we have been doing RGB and depth at the same time
Oh, since the beginning. Okay.
since the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's much more accurate, but conceptually, you could do a depth estimation using
Mhm.
RGB and some triangulation.
Oh, right.
But it looks like it didn't work like in the real world.
It wouldn't because like something that is really straightforward and easy for humans sometimes surprisingly is hard for computers.
Mhm.
So even if like they have the RGB information, it's a lot of lacking in terms of like context and how close up or afar the
Yeah.
object is. So we do it the hard way for the customers, so the customers can do it the easy way.
Okay. And so is it like can you tell us more about like the depth sensing? Is it an time of flight, or is it like a Z camera?
It's the stereo sensor. So basically, we would have an RGB on the top, and then the stereo sensor would just be like human eyes. So it would have basically triangulating, just like you said.
Oh, I see. So it's RGB and RGB at two different locations.
That I would have to refer to our tech team. I can follow
Okay.
you up on that. But then what I believe, what I've been told is it's a
Yeah.
3D.
Like the eyes, you need two positions. So
Mhm.
in your case, it's top and bottom
Right.
instead of left and right. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's pretty accurate. Oh yeah, so I had a question about the bin scanner.
Mhm.
So you showed the bin device, but I'm not sure
Mhm.
what a bin is. Right, so you
Oh,
showed me the scanning device, but I don't know
mhm.
what the bin looks like.
So the bin would be where the so everything happens in the kitchen. So this is different from the hall side. So in the kitchen, for example, in buffets, they would like prepare those like each different food, right? And
Yeah.
then when they are left over, they can't reuse them, so they have to throw it all away, and then it's pretty sad how much is being thrown away. And then they do it by menu, right? So they would have the food disposal bin, and then we would have our sensors on top. And then whenever they throw it away, we would know. Again, RGB sensor would know what it is, and then after they throw it away, the 3D sensors would recognize the change in the volume in the bin, right? So it calculates how much of that food item is being thrown away. With that information, we can say um, traditionally the kitchen has prepared certain food item like 100 servings, right? And then that includes the wiggle room for them. So if we can give them insight that consistently it's only been consumed like 80 servings, then they can cut down the wiggle room to 90. So they
Mhm.
can like optimize their menu purchase, they can like waste less, and then they can cut down cost as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So a bin is like a large plate, and maybe you need like a different field of view in the camera or something, or maybe the distance has to be a little higher.
Um, the distance definitely would be higher than the regular plate, which has been optimized on our end. So it would be seamlessly integrated into the kitchen solutions or
Okay,
kitchen environments.
cool. And then the conveyor version is like a normal device, but the conveyor is underneath it, and it's the
Yeah,
snapshot on the wiggle.
so it's gonna be more optimized for a very industrialized and systematic environment. So instead of having to have um, a person scan it each time or having to like infer each time they throw it into the bin, it's gonna be stationary, and then of course it's gonna give out less information than like those hectic or more involvement methods, but there are a couple of cases that that information is enough and crucial.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good idea. I've never seen. I mean, I can imagine how you would have a conveyor belt in high volume place for sure.
Mm.
And okay, so let's see. That was the main questions that I had. Um, so you will show a demo at CES?
Um, in certain to a certain degree, yes. But then, as you know, CS is very crowded, and then the internet
Mm,
connection and the server connection and everything is very limited. So we will try to like visualize as much as possible, but also there's going to be a lot of explanation in person that's going to happen.
okay, and I suppose you have some movies on YouTube and maybe some material already out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then we're
Um,
actually coming up with a couple of cool videos in preparation for CS 2024. I will be happy to share that.
Okay, yes, please. Yeah, it's always nice to have a video, and sometimes we can embed it as well. Some things are just easier to explain if you show it instead of write about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I was wondering if you had a cloud service associated to um, your business.
Oh yeah, we run on AWS.
Okay, but I mean your customers, do they log into like a portal, and
Oh,
do they
that
have to pay like
actually
for data storage and all that?
that is one of the big updates that we had. So,
I'm glad I
um,
asked.
yeah. You're asking a lot of good questions. So previously we, for the optimization purpose and the security purpose, we have been like shooting out different reports for different clients, which was working up until we had like 100 something clients, right? But then now that we're like expanding globally as well, we need a central hub where they can like sort through different information that is basically interactive instead of reports. So we have a major update happening right now, actually, as I'm speaking, with the dashboards and then like admin pages and everything. So we're trying to give more control for the clients to actually have more visibility and clarity in terms of data.
Okay, and so previously you were set up differently. Were you like on premise or?
No, we were still on cloud, but
Mhm.
then the way that we give out insights was unidirectional per se.
Okay, so
But
I
then
could
now it's
not
more
log in and
interactive.
kind of dig into the data as a
Mhm,
customer. Okay,
mhm,
so you have more analytics, let's say.
mhm,
Okay, and but it was always on in the cloud. So even before all the devices were sending data into your cloud.
mhm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. Um, so you don't have a multi-cloud strategy yet? It's all on AWS for now?
As of now, we're at AWS solely.
Hmm.
But as we expand globally, they have like different regulations and different regions that we need to set up, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's gonna be like solely contained. But take my words for with a grain of salt because I'm not a technician. That when it comes
Hmm.
to like clouds and everything, I'm not too sure.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's just like some companies like to use more than one cloud, right? So
Mm,
they'll have like some of their data on AWS and some things
mm,
on like Google or Azure, just
mm,
in case they need to move services around or maybe because of price pressure.
mm.
Yeah, it's always good to have options. I think that's
Right.
yeah.
More options
Um,
always better.
Yes. So yeah, so we touched about like the regulation. So it depends on the nature of the location and
Mhm.
the country as well. In terms of privacy, so if you want
Mhm.
to expand into Europe, do you have to host your data there? And I
Oh
think
yeah,
you
absolutely.
might have more paperwork or more constraints as for what data you can record.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The EU region with its GDPR
Hmm.
definitely has one of the highest bar in the world. So not only do we have to like set up our cloud region in the EU, we actually have to have a physical establishment there. We're very aware of that. Um, but strategically we can't like do that first and then try to expand in terms of business. So what we're trying to do right now in EU is that we're trying to have a form of solution in terms of pilot that eliminates any sensitive information and solely focus on food. The range and scope of service we can provide in that format would be limited, but then at least we can prove that our service would have a value. And then once we establish that, we're gonna actually fly there and then um, given enough proof, we definitely have plans to like fly there and establish a subsidiary.
Okay. I guess it might be more, it might be easier to expand with Amarak in the US first. That seems
Yeah,
like a
EU
low-hanging
is the
fruit.
final boss in terms of security and privacy.
Yeah, I can totally
Definitely.
picture it. I'm a French guy, so I keep an eye on that. Cool. So that was it. Like in terms of questions, very interesting presentation. Could you share the slides with me?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So if you could send them over to DK, and then I'll get them from AVING.
Okay, so the slides and a couple of like YouTube links and then videos, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. And if you have like white papers and things like that,
Mhm,
just add the links as well.
mhm.
I might take a look to understand if you have some research or statistics.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'll see what I can find.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So is that all questions you have?
Yeah, that's
Right.
it.
So thank you for being here for today's meetup. I hope you will see you. I hope you will see you again. We will see everyone again at CES 2024. So have a good day and see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Thank you.